What does it mean to be ethical in planning practice? In this video, I want to focus on making decisions that unequally benefit different stakeholders. AICP pinpoints the obligations to be ethical in planning practice. I find multiple reasons why the list is of little use, but for the most, the obligations omit the complexity of reality. There are conflicting interests of different players with power imbalance. Since the code of ethics has limitations, the ethical planning behavior depends on individual discernment. As a result, you are muddling through the dilemmas, identifying priorities, and making compromises, hopefully following the ethical obligations. But how? These obligations are not easy to achieve. So let me explain why it is an ethical dilemma by sharing an example in Seoul, South Korea. Large-scale demolition redevelopments of a residential area have been very typical in Seoul. Housing redevelopments has been lucrative investments. Bugahyeon area in Seoul is designated as the Phase 3 Rehabilitation District in 2005 for the buildings are torn down. The city held public hearings and conducted the majority votes for the project. With more than 50% approval, the planning committee approved the project, typically called a Newtown project, which is to demolish and reconstruct a large district by huge firms. But even if more than half of the voters agreed on the project, the opponents of the demolition are forced to face the unfortunate displacement. Why? The price of a new apartment unit is twice the price of their original housing. This is an ethical dilemma that you have to make decisions that benefit one stakeholder more than the other. Obviously, it is impossible to equally benefit different stakeholders. Then how can you survive from being frustrated with your discernment that you are planning against your vision to seek social justice? To be realistic, on a small scale at your work, you can argue the importance of inclusive planning processes that can address the various conflicting interests in internal meetings. Also, you can personally work on a proposal of the ideal planning processes. By building your capacity to seek social justice with your expertise, someday you can make a difference when you reach a higher position in the institution. Then your expertise and recommendations will be taken seriously, and it is a prosperous opportunity to make a meaningful difference in planning practice. Well, it seems like there are not much you can do to help the to-be displaced residents. Then why should we care the seemingly impregnable ethical dilemmas? Without questioning the status quo, which only benefits the privileged and excludes the marginalized, there is no progress in the society. You, as a planner, should keep questioning and voicing what is being ethical in planning. By doing so, you make small progress and organize a social discourse with your cohort planners, decision makers, and the citizen. In the case of Seoul, the demolition redevelopments have been criticized for several decades. And the government established the Urban Regeneration and Assistance Act in 2013, which seeks small-scale renovation for urban regeneration. And the two consecutive mayors in Seoul have been advocating this approach. Behind the scene, there were planners who opposed the demolition redevelopment, and they kept claiming the equitable planning. So, we planners muddle through the complex decision-making processes with the untiring persistence to ethical or equitable planning. By doing so, I believe we will make planning more just,